Welcome to the M Factor Live, a space where art of movement meets wisdom of the heart. My name is Emme, and I welcome you to another episode of 12 o'clock M's live teachings in uncertain times. So we have 4 more days to go. I promised I would do this for 30 days, for a whole month, and on Thursday is the 30th day, and I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you are getting a glimpse of how to take your yoga practice to the next level. I hope I inspire you to dig a little bit deeper and understand what you're doing on and off the mat so that your yoga practice can really be a beautiful tool that enhances your life. So the last few weeks we have been practicing our breath. We have learned techniques about how to calm our emotions. We have practiced exercises for our spine. We have done some restorative and recovery things. But there is one topic that is also one of my favorite topics that I think is super important and very, very misunderstood, not only in yoga, but also in the fitness world. And I think a lot of people are unfortunately cutting themselves short of really getting out of the exercises what these exercises could give us, and that is our core. And so normally when people think about core, they think about abdominals, okay? So this is I think a lot of people, when you say, here's my core, I have a weak core, where the doctor tells you you have to strengthen your core, we think about this area up here. But I want you to know that everything in our body works as a network together. So it is not possible to just take one part of the body out and say, I'm going to strengthen my core, and everything is going to fall in place. It's not how this works. And for me, and this is how I teach it in my classes, I believe that the core actually consists of 2 main parts. The core is really our whole entire torso. And one part is the front up here, is the abdominal cavity all the way into our hip. So basically from the rib cage down. And the other really important part is our back. And there, the upper back, the part where the shoulder blades come together, where we are lifting up into our chest. This is exactly the part that we have practiced the last few days and weeks last week. So they work together. I call this the lower core center and the upper core center. We have worked a little bit on the upper core center last week. So today I would like to see the relationship between our spine and our front part here. And so the muscles that we are using there are the abdominal muscles, and this is a group of muscles, and it's actually 6 different muscles that all are way on the inside of our abdominal cavity here. And I want you to think of your core as a brace, as a 3-dimensional brace around your lower back and this whole lower area of your spine. Yeah? So when you think today, when we're going to practice our abdominals in the front, I always want you to think they don't just work by themselves, but they also have an effect on their lower back. Yeah? So it is a brace that braces around this part of our spine and hips as well. Yeah? It's very deeply connected, and I'm making this a little bit easier than it is, but if you're interested in diving into that deeper, this is what I teach in my inner circle. Yeah, so there's a lot to discover, and if you understand this, you'll be able to take your exercises to the place where you are actually guiding the exercise to that place. Yeah. Okay, so we have these muscles in the front. Now, most of us, when we stand and when we sit, we actually relax the belly. And that's not what it should be. So when you stand or when you walk or when you sit, we should not have the belly just hanging out. And this hanging out movement comes because most of us are actually, remember, we are collapsing our rib cage. And so when you collapse the rib cage, most of the time, if you're not aware, the belly just poofs out. Yeah, I call this poofing out. I don't know if there's a better word for it, but the belly just poofs out. And so when you stand, the belly is just poofing out, and it's not using its capacity to actually support our posture, our spine. And that's the first thing you need to understand. So from now on, I want you to notice when you sit, when you stand, when you walk, when you're in the kitchen doing stuff, when you cook, when you're in the car, is it always that the belly is just poofing out? Yeah, that's number one. Very important to start to notice. So I know some of you are going to ask now, so what does that mean? I have to pull it in the whole time? No, you don't have to pull it in the whole time. But look at what happens when I get out of this upper back collapsed position and I lift myself up. Look what immediately happens to my lower core here. So when I'm here, my belly is poofing out right now, you can see this. And now look what happens when I just lift my rib cage up and my sternum and I elongate and lift up. And immediately, you can feel this immediately, your belly actually draws inward upward. That's number one. Yeah? So if you change your posture, your abdominal group has to work differently. Yeah? And then our goal is to train ourselves to a place where you actually have a little bit of activation always. Even when I'm just kneeling here, when I'm doing whatever, when I'm standing up, when I'm sitting down, I always have a little bit of activation. This, however, comes not today or tomorrow. This will come through practice and through being able to foster awareness between our part of our brain that actually controls our movement and making that autopilot. Which means I want my autopilot to not be poofing out my belly. I want my autopilot to know, my brain knows, hey, when she's standing, this needs to be supported. Because I want my spine and my bony structure. Remember, the hips are the biggest and heaviest bone in our body. This needs to be erect and lifted and supported and protected, and it has to be strong and stable in our positions in the gravitational field. Yeah, so this is important. From now on, start looking at, am I always hanging with the belly out? And look at all the people around you too, and you will start noticing things that you have never thought of before. That's number one. Okay, so number two, and you can do this here with me, so we're going to do this in standing position. I want you to stand in mountain pose. Feet hips width apart, the toes spread wide, and then release the toes onto the ground. I want us to lift up through the rib cage real tall and long. Good. Remember, we've done this last week. If you haven't, go back to some of the videos. It's worth it. You will learn a lot. Okay, so from here, now what I want you to do is, I want you to put your hand right there into your pelvic triangle. So here, from the pubic area to my hip bones, this is kind of like my pelvic triangle. Not on top, but here on the bottom. And I want you to see if with your inhalation, if you can lift this pelvic triangle inward, upward. And release. And again, lift inward, upward. If you cannot access that, think of putting on a jeans, some pants that are real tight. And I want you to think as if you're doing this movement and pulling this in. Yes, but without moving the hips. So we're standing up here and we're just lifting. It's almost a lifting inward, upward to the belly button. Can you feel that? These are muscles that I actually in part of our pelvic floor, but they are also part of our lower abdominal muscles up in here. Yeah, this is important. So see if you can stand and engage and hold and release and engage and hold and keep breathing and keep that engagement and release. Who of you feels that this already starts to get tired fairly quickly? Yeah, it gets really quickly tired. Why? Because we hardly ever use that muscle. So again, hold, keep holding, keep breathing, stand up tall and long, and release. Do you see that this is not the bottom? There is no tilt in the hip. There is just this sensation of engaging this inner lower part. Yeah, so let's do this a few more times. Mountain pose. Knees are slightly bent. You can bend the knees just as much. Lift up all the way to the crown of the head. And then allow with your inhalation. You can inhale, pull this up and hold. And exhale and keep the contraction in your lower core. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. If you feel this burning already, yeah, this is good. This means your muscles are getting activated. You should feel a very clear burn. If you do this right, you will feel this. There's no doubt. And release. And again. And if you feel this now here, can you notice that it actually has a direct effect onto our sacral area? Onto our sacrum. So activating these muscles down here has a direct effect on our sacrum, which is fabulous. We need that. We need these muscles up here to not sleep all the time. We need them to be active when I'm standing, sitting, when I'm doing anything, especially when I'm practicing yoga. Yeah? All right, so this is part one. I sometimes refer to it as this lower core, lower belly. It's not a really optimal word to say lower and upper because it is one part, yeah? But it is the lower part and the upper part. So please know that there is not a muscle that is on top and then a different muscle that is on the bottom. It's just one muscular network, yeah? We have a muscle in the front and we have muscles in the side. And they are not divided. Here's a muscle and there's another one. It's the same muscle that goes through the entire place, yeah? So just make sure that when you hear me say lower part, I'm always referring to this pelvic triangle, to this pelvic muscles. Part of it are the pelvic muscles here, this inward, upward movement. Yes, good. Okay, now comes the second part. Our abdominals in the front can do, when you activate them, specific movements. One is to crunch together our rib cage to the hip bones. Rib cage is up here. Hip bones are up here, these protrusions up here that you can knock on. And what the abdominals do is, when I crunch them together, when I contract them, they round my back and they bring this space between rib cage and hip bones closer together, okay? They also do side movements. So my obliques on the side here, they contract to the side and to the other side, and they also do twisting movements. So whenever I twist, we've done that a lot the past few weeks. We are twisting, and the obliques, which are here on the in and outside of our side, they are contracting left and right. Okay, so when I contract my abdominal muscles, I can create movements in my spine. So most of the exercises that we are doing are roughly divided into two departments or groups. Number one is where we're stabilizing, just like we did in our standing position. The other group is when we are creating movement. Yeah? So our abdominal core needs to be able to stabilize myself when I move something else. For example, good example is I engage my core and I'm lifting my arm. And I'm only lifting the arm because if you look at my core, it's engaged and it prohibits me from doing this. So here I lift my arm up and my whole back follows the movement because I arch my back and I create length in this position. So if I contract this and I keep it, then I can work on arm mobility without taking this mobility from my back. Yeah? So there are many exercises in yoga where you, not just in yoga, also in movement, in any sports, and any sports conditioning, fitness training, where you need to be able to keep your core contracted and stable while other parts of your body are moving. Okay, this is called stability. And the other one is called activity, where we're actually crunching, where we're using the abdominals to move. Okay, so this is important. All right, so now let's do this one more time. Mountain pose, lower part starts to engage. We are lifting inward, upward, and now I want you to very lightly feel that your rib cage and your hip bones slightly come together, just a bit. And now see if you can move a bit more and create somewhat of a movement. So if I put my thumbs on my rib cage and my longest finger, the middle finger, onto my hip bones, see if you can contract this together and lift back up. Now I don't want you to contract it with your back rounding forward. I want you to stay upright and still contract it a bit. And release. And contract it. And release. Do you feel how the rib cage is going down? And release. And contract. And release. You can see this in my shirt actually here, because it creates lines when I'm contracting and it opens up the lines when I am upright. Yeah? So now, instead of bringing the rib cage down, bring the hip bones up. Yes. Do you feel it? So instead of bringing the rib cage down, I want you to keep the rib cage up high and bring the hip bones and contract them in. Yes. In and exhale. Good. So now, as you see, it has an effect on our spine a little bit. So when we engage our core in standing position, the abdominals don't have to work a lot. And so it will be very quickly quite a bit of a movement, yeah? We're going to do this in a horizontal position in just a moment, and then it will be much harder. So standing should not be hard on the abdominals. It should be 10, 20, maximum 30% of work. It's not a lot of work involved, but it is active. So from now on, I want you to think when you stand up tall, it's not about pulling the belly in. And I never want you to walk around and pull the navel in and just walk around with your navel in. This is unfunctional. You can't do it. Yeah? You have to be able to breathe. We have to be able to contract this part and still be able to breathe. Yeah? Okay. I hope this clears it up a little bit. In standing position, this is not hard, but I want you to start to feel a little bit the connection when you're standing and sitting. Is my core engaged, or have I constantly have the belly just poofing out? Yeah? All right. So let's go down onto the ground. We lay onto our backs. Now, feet onto the ground, about hips width apart, and have them parallel, feet parallel. Okay, so now, I want us to try and see if we can do this contraction that we're doing in standing, if we can do this laying down. So here's my rib cage, and here are my hip bones, and I want us to bring those two parts together and open them back up. Now, you can do this by tilting our hip, and maybe let's do this just for fun. So you tilt your hip so that you create an arch up here. Tilt the hip forward and backward. Wonderful, yeah? So our movement in our back creates already a lengthening of the abdominal group and a contracting. Good. Now, I want us to do this without tilting the hips. The hip tilt should solely come through my muscle engagement. So I'm not lifting my bottom up, I'm not rounding. Keep everything on the ground. Just bring the rib cage and the hip bones together. And now see if you can keep that contraction and breathe. Can we breathe and keep the rib cage and the hip bones contracted together? Wonderful. And release. When you release, you will notice that most of us will have a tiny little curve back. This is our natural curve in our lumbar spine. When we engage our core, when we start to crunch, guess what happens? The lower back is going to, as a result of me contracting, my lower back is going to press into the ground. Yeah, that's exactly what we want. We want to have, as a result of bringing the rib cage and the hip bones together, the lower back into the ground. Good. Now hold that position. Hold it, just hold it. And don't lift up the rib cage. This is important, yeah? Because this is what most people do wrong. Bring the rib cage down and in all the way and keep that contraction. And if you just put your fingers and kind of like poke a little bit into your belly, you will feel how the abdominals are starting to move. Yeah, they are starting to contract, not move, to contract. All right, now from here comes one more thing. I want you to take, here's the navel, the belly button. I want the belly button to pull in and down. While the rib cage and the hip bones come together, the belly button goes in and down. And release. And exhale, in and down. And release. And exhale, in and down. Very good. Now, see if you can hold that position and just breathe. This is wonderful. If you can be here, breathe and talk, it means that your core can actually engage while you're breathing. You are separating it from this diaphragmatic breathing, where usually our exhalation can contract the core a bit more. And release. Good. So we need both. We need to be able to contract our core with our exhale, and we need to be able to breathe in and out while the core contracts. Okay? So here comes the next exercise. Take a deep breath in, out. One more time, in. Contract your core, rib cage and hip bones together. The lower back is flattening into the ground, belly button in. And now I want us to see if we can roll up our upper back. Slowly roll up the upper back and start to feel if this rolling can come from your rib cage and your hip bone, even more coming together. Most of you will feel their shoulder blades on the ground. You will feel them, and that's absolutely okay. But what I want you to do is press the belly button in as tight as you can and see if you can contract a little bit more. And slowly release back down. So, this is a crunch, yeah? A good old crunch. Most people do the crunch wrong. We're not doing them with our abdominal core, but we're lifting it up with our shoulders, head, and actually we are lifting up onto our shoulder blades. So this movement that looks the same is nothing for my core. I can actually almost relax my core completely. And you see, it looks like the same movement. But if I do this movement by rib cage down and in, belly button in, hip inward, upward, and I'm now lifting up, I am 100% using my abdominal muscles. And you will see, I can't really talk anymore then, because my abdominal muscles are so engaged that I can't breathe and talk at the same time. Yeah? So our goal is this, to get the contraction, to slowly lift up the head and see how far can you come without using your arms and head to come forward. This is not about bringing the head forward. This is completely wrong. I can have my belly relaxed to 90% and just lift up and go down. And it looks like an exercise that everybody recognizes, but it has no effectivity, zero. And this is why it doesn't bring anything. So let's do this again. Try this out. Rib cage and hip bones together and down. You will feel your lower back flattening into the ground. And I want you to see, put your hands onto your rib cage and see if you can press the rib cage slightly down. And just hold this position, hold it. And now notice if the belly can pull inward, not out. I know it wants to poof out, don't let it. Pull it in, yeah? This is retraining, we gotta retrain this is hard in the beginning. Okay, now, some of you will feel that your head and neck is totally tensing up. The reason for that is that our core, our abdominals are not strong enough to lift up our rib cage off the ground. And so the brain is saying, head, neck, and shoulders, you need to help. And so we're doing this movement forward, and that creates a lot of tension in the neck, in the front, and in the back. Yeah? So we have to learn in the beginning to not go too high and have our head in our hands. So we have to not bring the head forward, but to leave it back. So if I don't go forward with my head, if I leave it back, I can really feel my core, but my head can actually sink back. And that's what I want. So you can put your hands behind your neck, but I don't want you to do this. This is completely ineffective and inefficient, and it will hurt your neck. I mean, you will feel it in your neck and nowhere else. Yeah? So one more time. I know it's a lot of information, and I know you won't be able to get this right now today, but I want you to start thinking, wow, I have really never used my core in a way where it efficiently and effectively had to work. And if you want to learn that, if this is part of your focus, your brain is going to figure this out, how to get this activated more and more and more. And I promise you, there's not one asana in all of yoga that doesn't evolve in some shape or form, contraction or the release. In back bends, we need to be able to let this completely go, yeah? But we need to rely then on our back part, the glutes and the lower back, to do the work that the front is not doing. But every other asana, standing, twist, seated position, forward folds, balancing, all arm balances is core, 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 core. Yeah? So these are foundational exercises that will help you build the strength and the awareness. Everything in training is about body awareness. If you lack the body awareness, we're not going anywhere. And then we are always kind of like, we're staying where we are. It's a plateau. And this plateau doesn't go anywhere. So we're kind of like moving around this way. But I would love for you to be able to move around this way, which means we're slowly going up, and then we're plateauing again, and then we're slowly understanding some more, and then we're plateauing again, and we're going up. So the trajectory cannot be here. And that's where most people practice. That's the reason why you keep looking for more exercises. That's the reason why you do it for 1 week and then you say, this doesn't work, I don't feel anything. That's the reason why we're not getting anywhere. And I'm really adamant about it because I see it. I see it all the time. And I see the people who start to really feel into their body and try to think these postures into their body. And this is not a easy, quick little thing. This is not you just lay down and you do it. Yeah? It doesn't work like that. It works like constantly reminding yourself, okay, I want to bring my navel in. How am I going to do this? It doesn't feel like the navel is going in. But if you practice this more and more, if you're guided into this and constantly have the, it's highlighted, you will learn this. Yeah, this is easily traceable. You can learn this, but it's not a quick fix, but it is long-term, the only way to really make changes in your training. Yeah? Okay, so one more time. Let's do this. Hip bones and rib cage. Pull together, inward, downward. And then very slowly, I'm lifting my head up. Don't go high yet. Let's see if we can just go a tiny smudge and really feel the movement coming from your core. And now see if you can go a tiny bit more and release. And a tiny bit more and release. And if you want to bring one arm behind your head. Don't push with the arm. Don't push with the head. Allow your core to contract more and lift you up. And lower, just a bit. And lift and lower. You see that my soul movement in this position is right up here. It's here and here. It's not head and neck. Yeah? Learn to engage your core. And hold. Good. Extend the arms. And then just for fun, lift up one leg. And lower down the toes, but don't touch the ground. Just towards the ground and lift up. Can you feel that on that side of that leg, in my case it's the left one, that I'm really engaging these obliques while I'm holding the rest of the core engaged. Other leg. Slowly. Keep this contraction. Keep it. Don't relax. We're almost there. Lift up the leg just a bit. I want you to pull in and together. Rib cage and hip bones together. And slowly touch. Almost touch and lift up. And touch. And lift up. Do you feel this? This should be a very clear burn. You will very clearly feel this. Touch and lift up. One more time. Slowly lower down. Keep the contraction. And then slowly release down and relax. Yeah? So, what did you feel? I believe most of you will definitely feel this in your neck. You will still feel it in your head, and that's okay. But we've done the first step today. We have done the first step of learning, hey, I need to learn to contract my core, and I need to start to get more strength into it. Yeah? There are many different variations that I teach in my inner circle. We have spent whole January and February, 2 full months on core, on abdominal core. Yeah, I've gone into the anatomy, we have gone deeply into stability and mobility, and we have done dozens and dozens of different exercises building up on top of each other. 2 months, yeah? So the whole focus of these 2 months, the beginning of the year, that's how I start my inner circle each year. We start with core. And we worked on that. And from there, you can go into standing poses, into balancing, into back bends, into hip, into anything else that you want to practice. But if you understand how to engage your core, tomorrow we're going to do plank and stability stuff, yeah? But if you understand how to activate, engage, how to get access to this part of your body, and then train yourself to do this more and more repetitively, I promise you, your back pain is going to become better. A lot of us, our whole posture is connected to the fact that we're just weak up here, yeah? And hopefully, and that's my biggest hope, is that my words will register somewhere so that when you're off your mat, when you are in your day, that you're starting to think about these things and feel them. The only way to create a significant, lasting change is not just exercises. There has to be a connection between what you do on your mat, how you do it, and why you're doing it. So you're picking the right exercises, knowing exactly how to make them effective and efficient. And then we take that and use that in our everyday life. When you walk, when you work, when you do whatever you do, if you start to have an awareness how you're holding yourself, how you're moving, maybe you will go into a squat and picking something up. Maybe you will start to use your body more. Can you imagine your everyday life can become a workout rather than us having to schedule time every single day on our mat or in the gym and working out? How wonderful would it be if you take these principles that I'm teaching you into your daily movements, so that your 16 hours that you are awake, a good part of it is actually training. And that's my goal. That's the next level of yoga. That's the next level of movement. And for me, that's enhancement of life that is so worth it, beside sports and all the other activities that we want to do. And these are the things that might remind you of physiotherapy and some of the stuff that is done in therapy. Yes, absolutely. Because what they do there is they help us understand the fundamentals of how to move better. And if I can help you with that, everything else you do is going to be affected. Yeah? All right, so I want you to practice that. Try this out. Try, and absolutely your neck will feel this movement. It's okay, don't worry. Take a break and do it again. It will get better over time. Tomorrow we will go into stability for plank and all fours and bird dog. These are versions of stability where we don't move, but where we actually keep the spine stable while the arms and the legs are moving. Yeah? I hope this is helpful. I hope this makes you think. Yeah? My classes are designed for you to get to the next level. Yeah? You have so many videos out there to just do something somehow the best way you know how. I believe there are some of you out there who actually want to dive deeper and who really are interested in doing the work that is necessary to change your practice, so that whatever you do somewhere else, you can do it with a higher quality of movement and a better understanding. All right, so if anything that I do here is of value to you, please hit the like buttons and subscribe to the channel and share it. Yeah, this is the only way for us to kind of like get the algorithm involved to see that this is valuable to you. I hope to reach more people and dive deeper together. So the only way to do this is for you to comment, leave some comments and a thumbs up, and share it with everybody you need. I will be here tomorrow at 12 o'clock, only 3 more times, so don't miss it. I will see you tomorrow. Namaste.